Thank you for listening to the Content Magazine podcast, Conversations with Silicon Valley's Creatives. I'm Daniel Garcia, your host and the cultivator of Content Magazine, published by SV Creates. Okay, first we have to do a clap to do that. Are we rolling? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Ooh, that was good. I like that. Yeah. Okay. Hello, welcome to the Content Magazine podcast and video, and I'm here today with Tyra Gaines. Got your middle name in there.
Yes.
And you're the associate director at Local Color.
Correct.
But you do a lot more than that. But I do want to get to how you came to Local Color. But before we do that, it's like, I'm excited to sit down here with you because I've seen you around for the last number of years, but we've never really had like a long conversation other than passing. And that's probably just because of my own social awkwardness. But so I'm excited to find out about your life and everything. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity to share that. I feel like a lot of people could probably say that sentence about me and run-ins with me too. So
yeah, you are. Would you say that you're an introvert or a kind of shy person or what?
I'm definitely I'm both, and related to my work, having volunteering behind the bar table. You talk to so many people, but you have that little safety zone of like, I'm here for a purpose and have a job, and I'm also going to enjoy what's going on. And so more and more though, I just like to go out and just enjoy arts and culture to its fullest, beyond job work. I just truly enjoy it.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I was saying, when I was thinking about you, I was thinking that you were kind of, and I don't know if you've gotten this before, and I don't want to, if it's rude even, but you're kind of like a Cheshire Cat-ish, like the smile even that you have, but then you're kind of like, like the Cheshire Cat in the thing is like, all of a sudden there, and then you see the nice smile. You're kind of like that, like you appear
That's awesome.
at different events, and then you always have this very nice smile, I was even thinking too, because I saw a picture of you and doing my extensive research on your entire life. And then, a lot of people have like smiles, and it's kind of like, you just kind of have like a very kind of like peaceful countenance and a smile. Is that, would you describe yourself as being kind of like a content, joyful person? Or?
Absolutely. And I think I definitely get that from my dad. I remember growing up, I felt like he would just run into tons of people. He worked at IBM for 36 years, and that's how I ended up being born here in California. And I think I just got that from him, where it's like, oh, maybe someone's a stranger, maybe they're not a stranger, but you treat them like you know them. Especially if you're like absolutely joyful. I've definitely have my face gives me away for sure. So like if I'm smiling,
it shows your emotions.
You caught me in a good mood, and if something is perplexing me or I'm thinking about something, my face is like very like stoic and serious. So
it's like it's not wearing your emotions on your sleeve. It's like I'm wearing my emotions on my face.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. That makes me kind of nervous because if all of a sudden I see you do like a or something, then I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, I said something wrong. But okay. Well, cool. Well, thank you for being here. So now you actually were born and raised here in San Jose.
Yes.
Yeah.
So very fortunate.
How did you get involved in the arts scene? Because you went to San Francisco State University and you did kind of like major art history, spatial art, and then photography too. So how did you kind of what was your entry into the arts growing up here in San Jose, and then we'll work it all the way to your current position at Local Color. So how did you get involved in art?
I think it started in high school. I went to Gunderson High School, and I was a part of Associated Student Body all 4 years. And so from like spirit days and face paint and all of that. And then junior year, I was like a co-dance director. So it was really fun to organize events essentially, and there was one that I still have a piece of artwork from. I went to high school with the Jimenez brothers, so Nicholas Jimenez, Silvino, and their older brother Felipe, and they've been artists for as long as I've known them too. And so I kind of curated their artwork into this Sadie Hawkins glow in the dark theme of a dance.
That's cool.
And then after high school, I thought, I'm going to go away, go out of San Jose. And that quickly changed. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stay and go to De Anza and
What
like
changed?
figure
Like,
it
what
out.
was the quickly changed? Just the crazy cost of going away to college, or
Ooh, I have an older sister, and so she had gone through some traumas away, and that being her story, I'll leave it there. But that definitely affected me very early on, and so just mentally, like I was not ready to verge into the unknown of like, oh my goodness, like what could happen, and very fortunate to like still be friends with the people I was friends with in high school, and so. I just felt like I'd be leaving too much without really knowing where I was going, and definitely just like a lot of like fear and anxiety. So I think that is also the kind of like I've popped up and now I'm gone. Like I step in when I'm comfortable, and then it gets to a point of like, okay, time to like go back to my little cubby hole. And so both still are there.
So then you stayed around here and you went to De Anza for a bit, right? And
yes.
And then you transferred.
And then I transferred. I have to give shout outs to Makla though. So music in the park, like riding the light rail, was like such a, I don't know, what is that called when you get older? Rites of passage?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, getting freedoms to ride the light rail was a rites of passage for me. And when music in the park was free, so you'd come down, you'd like be able to hang out downtown late night.
Is this when you were like in high school still?
Yeah, this is like 17, 18, like getting out of the freedom. I'm one of two girls, and so I feel like my parents definitely kind of like sheltered us a bit. Like,
are you the oldest or youngest?
Youngest. Like, you stay home. But then it got to a point of like, well, I have friends and I'm going to go out. And so I knew that there was tons of arts here in the SOFA district particularly. So I like printed out my little resume. I've been a nanny. I know how to make pizzas from bogies, and went to all the galleries here to see if they had internships.
Oh, cool.
And I was fortunate enough to land an internship at Makla in their business administration. And
when was that? Like what year-ish? Kind of like how long ago?
Must have been 2011. Because then that's what really, like, while I was at De Anza, like, I knew I wanted to do art. I really pictured myself, like, in a museum, kind of, like, maybe out of the country even. And more so, I just kind of fell in love with like the local culture and appreciating what is like right at my fingertips, really understanding what it means to be from the Bay Area. Like I remember learning about the hyphy movement at De Anza in our sociology class. And that totally like spent this like lens of like, wow, like art is like our voice, and it really doesn't totally matter where you are, that you can like project that out there and like learn about past, present, and imagine a future all through art. So it definitely just made me appreciate where I was.
Yeah, that's cool. So then, I mean, obviously, like you are very much a go-getter or whatever, because if you were in I don't even know what it's called. I was associated student body. Which was like everything like I completely avoided. We're in high school, and then you like helped with the dance group. You help with that's kind of, and then to have the gumption to like go downtown and just walk to places and say like, do you have an internship? That's pretty cool. Have you always been kind of like very much like, oh, I don't know you that well.
Yeah.
You don't seem like would be like that kind of like a forward kind of thing. But I mean, I guess there's different styles of being, I don't want to say aggressive or tenacious or what, I don't know. Right? Normally like a tenacious person is very like loud, but you're probably like very nice, knocking on the door. Hi, I'm wondering if you have an internship, right? Right, would have been like, hey, you got an internship? Yeah.
Yes.
So, but have you always been kind of like, I'm gonna make it happen?
I was not born that way. Apparently, my godfather loves to say that like people would just look at me and I would just start crying and like cling to my mom and dad. So definitely was not like that for a long time. But then I think in like preschool, like I definitely remember making like important friendships in preschool. So I think maybe that like learning that people are good. And like my friend from kindergarten, I have like a really close friend from like 4th grade. So I feel like the people aspect is what brings it out. Just like that hope that like, oh yeah, there's like other people that you can potentially connect with. So I think that positive factor is a driver. And then also kind of the other side of it, that like life is short, and I have been tangential to like a lot of early passings, and just really being steadfast in the fact that like I want to squeeze the most out of my life, like for my close ancestors, for my like past ancestors that didn't even have the option. And so it just feels really important for me to like find joy, and I genuinely just get joy out of like being that kind of flaneur in like real life, that like motif of a person kind of like walking through a scene. Like I strive for that.
That's awesome. That's cool. That's good. Okay. So then but your art kind of journey that you did, so you had a photography major. I know you do a little photography like on the side, and I see different stuff that you're doing, but you were going into kind of more of the arts administrative, museum, curatory. Was that kind of like the kind of thing? And you're doing that now. Were you kind of thinking you do like fine art photography too, or what was kind of like the different thoughts going on in a young Carman?
No,
You're still young.
Thank you. I just had my 30th solar return, so I definitely feel like older.
Happy solar return.
Thank you.
That's cool. 30.
So that feels like I definitely am still young. But I also have like 10 decades of life.
Yeah.
So
30 is actually good. I used to say like life begins at 30, because I think like, like when, of course, before you become 20, you're just like kind of grown up. But when you get your 20s, like you kind of feel like, oh, like I'm an adult, but you still don't know enough about the world. Then 30 is kind of like, oh, I have enough history of myself and the world that you can kind of like make decisions and stuff. So congratulations. That's a good place to be in. I'm excited for the next 30 years of what's going to happen. But okay, but we're talking about
how'd I get here?
But the arts administrative part of it versus fine art photography or something like that.
I think at a pretty early on, I accepted that I didn't want to do art for like make that be the way that I survive in this capitalist world, because I love it so much. I really do. I got kind of upset with art, learning about art. Photography in particular, learning about how it interacted like with like the early wars, like the Civil War, and like war in like Vietnam, and like what role it played, and how it kind of became a tool of some not good things, and it was kind of got abused in the art in what its power is. And then it took me a while to get back to that and just find the joy and like just sitting in a moment and like looking at the light and looking at shadows and just like that extra layer that's like always going on around us. Like I think that is truly beautiful to me, like golden hour, a nice overcast day with diffused light. So I think I do have that mindset of a photographer. But I also just really need to be in that mental zone to dive into art, and I use it as catharsis and just like as a way to like purge a feeling or capture a moment. So I learned early that commercially wasn't the thing that I was going after. Portraiture, I think, is like an extremely intimate artwork, and that less exuberant side of myself does not really allow me to like be like, hey, like really cool person off the street, can I just like take your picture? Or to be that photographer that captures these really beautiful moments where someone's not even aware, because I'm like, okay, well, I'm like
the street
capture. Yes, like I admire that form of photography, but it's not something my fingers are comfortable with. And then also having a dark room. So my studio practice and what I learned was in film photography. And I feel like that tangible part of photography is what was like most fun, being in the dark room, very like sensory oriented. You totally zone out because you're like in this darkened room. And so not having access to that after school, got a scanner, but still it just didn't spark that same joy for me. So I think the other side of photography, so it's you, the photographer behind the lens using this tool, but then the other side is like this entire world that you're either creating or interacting with. And so leaning into that, and from my experience at Makla, that's how I ended up going the kind of administrative, programmatic route. So I found an internship after 2 years at San Francisco State, because I transferred from De Anza, I was like, I don't want to leave San Francisco. I was still living in San Jose the whole time doing the Caltrain commute.
Yeah. It's fun.
But didn't want to leave the community necessarily because there's just so much opportunity in the arts in the North Bay. So I was at Southern Exposure for I think like 3 years or so.
Yeah.
Started there as an unpaid intern, and then with that, you have to go out there. No one's coming. I mean, every once in a while, someone will come to you. Someone will make a great recommendation.
Yeah.
But more often, you just have to make opportunities for yourself, even if there isn't a job opening. If you're at a place and you want to stay, tell them how much you want to stay. Yeah. Write it down even, because if your job has to do with writing, show them that you can do your job while you're asking. So that's essentially what I did. And the need was there, and timing aligned for me.
Yeah, that's cool. So, I mean, so you were looking for internships and volunteer. I mean, just to kind of get your nose in the tent, as they say, like, to get out there. Yeah, that's cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people forget, like, the importance of that. You know what I mean? Like, just showing up. It's like, so good. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, all right. So then you're at Southern Exposure. Then how did you get to Local Color? How did that all come about? What was the journey?
That was absolute tenacity.
Okay, awesome.
There is some major shifts going, and this is like summer of 2019. So maybe I had a dream of a premonition of what was to come, but I just saw the opportunity. Jada goes by Jada. We went to high school together. And there's also, I'm forgetting his name right now, but another photographer that's been connected to Local Color before I was. So I'd known about the organization. I went to the opening in 2016.
At the Ross, the old Ross.
At the old Ross, yeah. And I was just like, wow, this is so cool that this exists. Like, I remember asking Aaron, like, did you go to grad school? Like, how did you end up here?
Yeah.
And it kind of just never left my mind. And I went through a year, 9-month program called Bay Area Emerging Arts Practitioners, EAP.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like just a small group for people working in different places in the field. Again, emerging, we're kind of like new in our career.
Who puts that together? What's that?
I believe it's funded through Intersection of the Arts.
Okay.
And it is based in San Francisco. So it is mostly San Francisco-based and Oakland-based workers that join. But I think anyone could technically be a part of it if you're in the Bay Area. Again, let someone, say no to you. Don't say no to yourself.
Right, before you even ask. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So I had applied for that, and it was really helpful. Rand and McFadgen and Catherine Canton were the kind of like facilitators of that program too, and we had to do like a presentation on like the state of the arts kind of, and I chose Local Color. So awesome. I was even more so like subscribed to their newsletters, following them on Instagram, and I saw that they were doing a tour downstairs at the Valley Title building, and I typed up a letter of interest as if I was applying for a grant, but to essentially like share that I want to work with them, what I was currently doing. And again, it just kind of aligned. They were receiving some funding from the Knight Foundation, and we're going to do a hiring call. And I kind of just like stepped through at the right time and just introduced myself, handed over this letter, just presented myself in a way that like showed I'm very serious and like already have passion. Cool. And from there, I've been there for a little over 4 years now. Yeah.
And you started out kind of part-time too, right? Wasn't it part-time because of I thought it was kind of like because of the grant, and it was and then you went full-time or?
I most likely. And just even looking at like my starting wage to now, and I work at a nonprofit, so it's all public knowledge, but I think I like started at like 45 a year, and now I'm at like 75 a year. And again, that is from being very transparent with conversations with my team, with funders, and I'm very grateful for the experience that I have, because all of the lure about nonprofit organizations, like it has a reputation for a reason, and I'm very fortunate that Local Color isn't following those bad practices.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's awesome. That's cool. It's great to hear the story because I've kind of thought it was organic in a way, but it was definitely you helping it happen because I thought it was like more of the kind of story you were just kind of like part of the kind of group hanging around, and then Aaron and you kind of were talking, and then like, oh, here's an opportunity. But you actually pursued this a little bit more. I didn't really know
absolutely.
That. That's cool.
And that was why
Good for you.
I really wanted to work for Local Color, because working in San Francisco and then taking the train, I'd get home at 9:00 and everything's over, and it was hard to maintain and build off of relationships in a city where I didn't live.
Yeah.
But then also I'm missing out on all these things that are happening here at home. And so that was really my driving force, is I want the opportunity to get more connected and be present.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so then your role there, what exactly do you do with Local Color on a daily basis?
That super shifted too. And my first big job with Local Color was closing down the original location.
Oh, yeah.
And so I got thrown into it beautifully, because we did a whole mural blowout. So pretty much everyone who has ever come through Local Color got a chance to come through, paint the walls.
Yeah.
We had that's when the backyard pop-up was happening in Fountain Alley.
Yeah, that's right.
Mural Arts Philadelphia came out. So I got to meet a ton of people.
Yeah.
It's really funny. Alex Mon, he would use the term BC of before Carman, and then and then after for when I'm getting caught up on things.
Nice.
So I started out as memberships and facilities, broom mop. I still have to do that kind of stuff every once in a while. I still get those calls. But it had progressed, and the idea of fiscal sponsorship was already kind of in the future vision of what Local Color was going to be doing. And then in 2020, once the pandemic happened, that really shifted our operations, really shifted the demands of facilities and the studios, because we had to close those. And so I was able to focus on starting to build the program of fiscal sponsorship, which is called the Local Commons. So that's what I do. I feel like when people ask me, I like to say that I'm in Grantland often. I like to call it Grantland to make it fun. But I do that for both the organization, for Local Color, writing applications, just doing the full donor stewardship for that, as well as now imparting that knowledge to other independent organizers through fiscal sponsorship, where essentially, if no one's heard that term before, we are a 501c3 specifically, but we have a IRS tax designation that says we are a nonprofit, and that has a specific EIN number that allows us to be eligible for grants from the government or foundations, and we're able to share that with independent people or organizations, so they don't have to go out, create their own nonprofit, do all of the regulatory rules for that. Essentially, it's that combining forces, sharing knowledge, just building more closeness in the community as well. Those are kind of the extra things. So that is my full-time, or was kind of from memberships and facilities to fiscal sponsorship management. And my role as of the last year has been associate director. So just have a little bit of everything. We're only a team of 6. And that's new
good.
too.
That's awesome. 6 is great. That's a good
size.
It
feels good right now.
Yeah, that's good. What would you say then? I mean, you're definitely connected in the local scene, and you have a passion for that for a while. How would you describe kind of South Bay and then San Jose art scene? What would be some of the characteristics that you would kind of identify with this area?
Very passionate and obsessive, maybe. And I'm also using these terms in describing myself. When you speak to someone and they're from San Jose, and I feel like that's every maybe 1 in 6 people, it feels like, in a room, they're actually from here. And they're rooted with their family, and they're rooted with whatever their passion is too. And specifically in the arts, if it's music, or if it's tattooing, or if it's making movies or film, or just throwing events, whatever it is, people go very intensely for it. And then also it's a very DIY, not always seeking validation, because the South Bay It's like we've like gotten to a point where it's like, okay, we know that it's going to take time to shift our persona, if that's even the goal.
Right.
And so while that's maybe happening on the side, we're doing it for ourselves and doing it for whoever is considered within that community. So community oriented, very passionate, tons of different passions. So very diverse in cultures, diverse in experiences, too diverse and when it comes to economic disparities, but all of that complexity lives here.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's interesting you say 1 in 6. I was interested on a number of like discussions and boards and stuff that I was on, and it was like talking about like the future San Jose placemaking and all this kind of stuff with different funders and organizations. And then in the room, I was like noticing like me and one other person were actually like raised here. Everybody else had been here only like the last 10 years. And I was kind of like, you guys are making decisions about who we are and you don't even really know. But they were very passionate people. So, and they're very connected and own this town now. What would you say in the last, so in your recent time of working with Local Color, what has been something that you just really has like inspired you?
I am blown away. Like I genuinely, like I'm a little bit of everywhere, but I really take the time to know a little bit of everyone too. So I feel like there's countless people that I know that have some kind of artistic passion and they're just like really going for it. Like I can just being a part of, I think that's what also kind of like launched me in this trajectory is that I started in the realm of like art history. So looking like back, all the way back. But there's so much history that's being like made right now, like in the present. And although it doesn't always feel that way, like at some point someone's going to be looking back at this and there is so much to look back at. And it'd be really interesting to see if someone was doing like an art history or trying to create the canons of time period in Bay Area art, what San Jose would be looked at from that like macro zoom.
It would look like Content Magazine is what it would look like.
Yes, it would.
Quite honestly, little self-plug.
Yes, the archive. It's so important. It's so important. I brought this like assignment that I made in college. I was a little late on Content Magazine, I have to admit. But once I found it, I was just like, whoa, this is so cool. There's so much going on. And there's so many stories to tell about it as well.
Yeah, that's cool. What would you say then, like, out of that experience, what kind of like life lesson, wisdom do you kind of like try to implement on a daily basis? Do you know what I mean? Like what kind of like drives you and your thought process of waking up in the morning and taking action?
I feel like I'm a fairly like realistic person. Like I try to keep both feet in the micro reality of what's happening just in my day to day, and I really try to like center myself and like I'm safe, like I've gotten like to a place of stability, like I'm fortunate to have family and to have love, and then also the macro of just like, wow, there's so much going on like in the world, in my imagination, and the imagination of so many other people. So really just trying to like oscillate between both of those spaces of and even the things that we do, this is from like Adrienne Marie Brown, but like even the things that we do on that micro level create like a little ripple. And we may not always know what those ripples are or see the results of our actions, but I do believe that like everything we do can cause ripples. And I would love to see the world change and be an equitable place where people don't have to worry about housing or food security or just their general safety. And then that allows us to like open up to finding joy through whatever you find joy in. And that's why I immerse myself in art so much, because that is for me that source of happiness. That's
cool. I love one writer, I can't remember, was this like this idea of 51%, right? Like if any situation, just if you just added 1% more value than what you took away, the world would be a better place. Like that would change so much. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I mean, it's like small little effort. I mean, that's kind of the bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. So now you started a podcast a little while ago.
I did.
Plan and Story.
Yes.
Yeah, and so there was some interest in this. Is kind of seems to be a theme that's running through your life, because it was talking about you kind of wanted, the mission of it is to kind of like inspire people to bring like joy and community. So talk about those two kind of like themes that seem to like run through your life. I don't even know how to put a question on it, but just like joy, community, talk. I mean, I don't even know how to go.
Yeah. I think, well, my parents are both from, well, my dad's from Oklahoma City. My mom's from Richmond, Virginia originally. And so it was mostly just my immediate family here in San Jose. And I have god family in Oakland.
Okay.
But
so
they
pretty
were
small.
pretty small. Those are the
circle.
people that were like closest to me. And we do talk about like our circles of friendships. And I'm like, I'm like working on my Cheerio right now. I'm like, maybe we'll get to like a Krispy Kreme donut one day. And then we'll have the whole box, you know? But I think that kind of like intimate knowing of people has like stuck with me very much so through childhood till now. And then again, just like the witness of the, exact opposites of joy. And I am way too in tune with my emotions now, and I'd rather not cry on this podcast.
It's
so
okay, I'll cry.
I think
If you cry, I'll cry. I'll cry, but I'm a crier. So
I have become a crier. And maybe this is also like because I'm a Leo, or if you want to get into numerology, my life path number is the number 5. So apparently I am just bound for adventure. And yeah, I know too much of the opposite. And, the past 3 years, like absolutely terrific. And I was still commuting when Nia Wilson, her life was taken. So rest in power. Just that balance of, I know what I can control. And what I can control is what I can do with my time, how I generate my resources, because I haven't taken down capitalism just yet. But if someone's out here and wants to start a farm, that's also been a dream of mine, which is, again, that like learning. I can't remember when I learned about communes and things like not the scary culty kind, but
Waco,
the
Texas kind.
No. But the self-sustaining, going back towards indigenous practices and just imagining, indigenous peoples, they were likely, just caring for their bodies, caring for their families, caring for their tribes, and caring for the environment. That's what I take away from those cultures, and really wanting to replicate that in the face of, the exact opposite, especially in the last, 3-4 years, and everything that we're dealing with on a political scale, in school, taking a African American studies class, learned about the intersections of Black Indians, which is similar to my own diaspora of West African heritage, and Freedmen Cherokee, and the Chickahominy of Virginia. And just that opportunity to live life joyfully was not always prevalent. And I think that's what we have most in these days. There's people that are actively working against that. So we also, just as strongly, just as fiercely, need to be finding ways to create safe spaces, to remind people that joy is out there, because sometimes you just can't see it because you're bogged down by everything else. And loneliness is real as well. This past year has just been a really big shift for me, for the positive. And I felt like through that fear, I had definitely kind of lost my voice. And so I was listening to throat chakra music and just trying to get centered. And starting that podcast was also a way of me to just, even if you're by yourself in a room, you don't just sit here and be quiet and under a blanket, at least talk.
Yeah.
Because just for my own health. And Haley Cardamom of San Jose Day was my first guest on there as well.
Yeah, that was fun.
And so that was the last episode that I put out. And I'll get back to it. I moved again, and that was a weird and scary time. I've moved 3 times in the last year.
Oh, that's fun. Have you got a new thing where you have your possessions so they just like fit in one suitcase or?
Almost, yeah. The tote bags that I own, and then a couple plastic bins. I've condensed down that farm, and then maybe an Airstream on the farm. So slowly condensing down for like that kind of livelihood.
Yeah.
Which is very hard when you love art.
Yeah, right. To collect. Yeah.
Yes.
It is, I mean, I get what you're saying is too. It's just the strangest thing about life is like even the good intentions. Like you think about like capitalism and the American industrial period, and all that kind of stuff, right? Even technology, all these things with the intention to make life better, right? And yet then there's these side effects that are actually destroying like the simple life. You know what I mean? But it's great that. I mean, like if I had to go out and plant all the food that I was going to eat and I had to raise my cattle and all that kind of stuff, like I would starve probably in a week, So it is good that we have these other kind of things, but yeah, just the negative side of the mass production of what that does. And
absolutely. And ideally, it wouldn't just be us, like that one person managing their own plot of land. Totally. That was also like a really interesting parallel that I remember from art history, that it went from like there was never an artist's name on the artwork. It would be accredited to whatever school of painting it was.
And then
and then at some point it did shift to that like individual, and so this was my painting. So it wouldn't be, it would be the region's plot of land, and it would be the region's responsibility to keep everyone fed so that the individuals within the collective can thrive. And I feel like that also goes back to like the 12 points program of like the Black Panthers and like what mutual aid, and that's something that I've been really inspired by as well. Like I realize that I do work at a 501c3, but I also understand and recognize that there's like so many different models for succeeding and for taking care of communities, and we can all just kind of learn from each other.
How does art then, do you think, help move the needle forward for this kind of community that you're talking about?
I think art, I would consider like a podcast an art. And so you're just here looking to hear a conversation. And from this conversation, you'll take a nugget from it. And that can grow into a seed and those ripples. And so with art, some of it is just like purely for joy and to like tickle the senses. And some art has that, either very direct or subliminal meaning to it. And I think that's also what drives me to like work in the arts, so that I can engage with the art but also engage with the artist, because sometimes you don't always carry the message right away, or like how someone wanted it to be absorbed, until you can actually have a conversation with them and have them explain it to you. And then now I'm going and researching something that's going to like take me further down that path. And that is possible within politics. That's possible within environmental stewardship, within recognitions of other cultures. So I think that art is totally critical. And if you are able to have the ability to see and to like really just take something in, just like color theory, even those kinds of like subliminal things of like tapping into the collective consciousness, which sometimes is like accidental, or sometimes it's intentional by looking at patterns, and getting into that commercial realm. So I think that art is kind of all powerful.
Yeah, it is. I mean, definitely, because it is expression and communication, right? And so there is value, like you were saying, like just in recognizing, admiring, and having awe for beauty, right? That's like and aesthetics. But then there's also the thing of like having a message of change or thought. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting. Okay, so then let's talk a little bit more about the podcast, the name, the plan, and story. Like, what's like because we have our plans, but then the story's unfolding. Kind of tell like what's the.
I mean, you pretty much, nail on
Sorry,
the head.
This is supposed to be a question.
No, that's okay. That's good, right? I didn't want that to be hard to understand. I wanted that to be relatable. Yeah. So good. Probably because we're in California, read a lot of Steinbeck, and so nice. Of Mice and Men was definitely something that was in our English class, and that story really stuck for me. They were just trying to do their best, and then they got caught up in this farm and all the things that happened there. But they had a plan, and so the best laid plans of Mice and Men often go awry. Right. I believe that is. Part of the quote, not exactly the quote, but how it's like most commonly remembered.
Sure.
And again, after this period of high school where I was like, I know what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what I'm doing. I got it tattooed on my shoulder. So it's even just a little reminder with like a little hanger next to it to also just like let go, let go of the fact that plan didn't work so that you can carry on forward. So having that reminder to myself, and I think that just became another really important reminder that I needed and just need to keep reminding myself of. Goes back to Grantland as well. Like I can be sitting there typing the best application that I believe I can type, and then you just have to send it off and hope that someone can receive it, so that you can carry out. And with anything, like I'm regaining my future vision. So trying to find those stepping stones again to like work towards and to kind of get a better idea of what my like future destination is. Very happy that the present is so wonderful and I can just immerse myself and just be present right now and feel happy and content there. But I am someone that likes to make plans. I do have a bit of a structured brain, but then also can be like very like loosey-goosey and like flailing through life.
So. You're pretty much like you have a to-do list, and are you, and you like check them off every day? Or are you like got to have your email empty every night when you go to bed? Like that kind of stuff? Like
inbox, definitely. I need to know so I can just leave it to bed. But checklists, doing better. This was my first year of like actually implementing a planner.
Wow.
Also because of the podcast too, it was just like, because I love what's going on so much, there's so much that I actually get to go to. And there's also so much that, it's the joy of missing out. Like I knew about it, but like there's not more than one of me. So
I like that there's the joy of missing out because I totally have like the FOMO, right? The fear. Anyways, sorry.
Yes. But sometimes it's just great to know that something is going on. Like it's great to know that there is endless opportunity. If you want to get out there, there's probably something happening in your neighborhood. Hopefully it's happening when you're off of work. But, there's morning, days, and nights, weekdays, weekends. There's like almost always something going on. And so kind of as a way to encourage the people that are currently organizing events and the future people to like be inspired and to like take up the baton when that time comes to continue being organizers in a sense of like curating events and gallery shows, concerts.
I do appreciate that about the podcast, just you commenting on exhibitions or events that you went to. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of fun to kind of like see that. I really appreciate it. I mean, we need that here too, so people can see and be inspired. Like, oh, and this went. I missed out on that. I want to go check it out. Well, you mentioned like your future vision, and you are a planner, but you're finding that strange tension of life where it's having plans, moving forward, and yet being able to adapt with what comes your way. But what would you say at this current point, if you were to have to like put a little nugget on what your vision for yourself is? What is that? If you're willing to share.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like pretty much in my LinkedIn bio. The idea of having a plot of land that is self-sustained, that is a place for myself and my family, but also a place that people who need it would be able to go. And I don't again, I always just go back to this, even in other conversations, so not just for this podcast, but just like, capitalism, like, why is there a numerical value on my life when the dollar equates to, who knows what the dollar even equates
there is
to
no
these
golden
days.
Fort Knox, really.
So I think having those reprieves from that will allow us to keep going while the world is the way the world is.
So definitely the vision is sustainable, shareable community. Would you say if I...
Absolutely. And hopefully there'd be tons of artistic people there. So it would be... it's kind of dreamy. A little farm, a little cabin, a little, who knows? And being from the Bay Area, like we live in such a beautiful place. Like I think could that happen in San Jose? I don't know. That would be amazing. My parents are still here, so I really have no desire to leave San Jose, my community, my family. But I do love the hills of Marin, and all of that water you can capture from the fog and everything. So that lends into
you do
the
have to
plans.
think about the full sustainability. That's the tough thing about this area is like, they used to say like you could catch enough, runoff water from your own roof to sustain yourself, but I don't know. It's San Jose. I don't know if you could do that.
We're getting more weather now, which is good. A little bit more of the 4 seasons.
Maybe. The 2 seasons. Cool. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to see the future farm that you're gonna set up. I mean, you're farming and planting seeds. It seems like you have that kind of mentality. Like you're seeing that. Like we even talked about changing the community, right? And you even mentioned, like seeds. So I think that's, it's kind of like that's in your kind of thing, like to plant seeds and have them grow and nurture them. So, and what you're doing with, local color, you're helping artists do that. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
What's like for you, what is currently like what music are you listening to that's like you're jamming to, that's giving you inspiration and stuff?
Well, I've had some really wonderful live musical experiences. Just got to see Madison McPherson.
I'm not sure.
I hope I'm saying your name properly. Just played at the Levitt Pavilion with the local Joy Dunn Hackett. So immediately put them in my recently added. I got to see Mac Sabbath at the Great American Music Hall, and they are a very theatrical Black Sabbath cover band. So a little old school rock and roll. I feel like if I'm just hitting play on something, it might be the Gorillaz or Leon Bridges, little jazzy funk, kind of rock, electronic, a little bit of everything.
Eclectic. I love that.
I still have access to my old like iTunes account, and so I do love to just like play shuffle and like hear music that I was listening to when I was like much younger, and all the music and bands that I've like found recently too. That's cool.
So not to have to move it to the capitalism, but let's promote a local color activity that's coming up.
Absolutely.
31 Skull. Talk about that. Let's do 2 things. Where did that come from? And then what can we expect this 27th of October in 2023 at the Mexican Heritage Plaza?
Aaron Salazar is Local Colors founder and executive director, and before any of that was an artist. And so during the shutdowns of 2020, we're all in isolation. She ends up ordering these ceramic skulls and starts painting them for herself, and then has an aha moment of like, this could be a fundraiser and should be a fundraiser because we're in this like very precarious time. And that led us to 31 Skulls. It started as kind of like a very fun QVC style. We like dressed up in Halloween costumes and just did a raffle. And now it's like evolved year after year. These ceramic skulls are pretty durable. So artists are doing more adventurous sculpting, adding ceramics to it, adding bases to it, levitating them.
There was like a tree.
Yes, Chetna is so awesome. And it's also, so it's around Dia de los Muertos and the All Hallows Eve Halloween season. So definitely a little bit of honoring, the kind of the macabre and sadness of that moment and anyone who is left, but also taking a moment to celebrate all the people that are here, all the people that Local Color has gotten to work with. So we look back at people that we have recently worked with in the current year or since the last 31 skulls, as well as artists who are in our artist resident studios, and send kind of a big invite to those folks to sign up to do the skulls. And we always kind of aim for around 31, so like give or take, there's a little bit more, but always at least 31 skulls to just mark the day. And this year it's going to be at the San Jose Women's Club, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we saw the space, and last year it turned into a goth formal, so that's the attire. So if you're coming, I hope you'll show up in your best goth formal digs, however you want to interpret that. And so it's become a really fun party. So this has capacity for 300 people. So I hope we can fill it out with all of the artists who have painted and people who come through.
Are you guys going to have live music on the stage for the goth formal part of it? I mean, is it a dance type thing too? Or
we'll have some DJing during the main event for anyone that wants to come to the VIP hour. You get the first opportunity to start placing your bids on the skulls, and we will have a live musical performance in the first hour. And then it's kind of chilling, enjoying. We're lucky to have Miguel Ozuna come back. So if you look back at the recap, you'll see all these really cool ghost portraits, just using time and light to play and create these kind of spirity looking portraits. So he'll be back again. So it'll be a nice time to just enjoy talking with everyone. And then for the final hour, it'll be a live auction. So we are... Every year it's different. This is our 4th year, and it really started out of a place of fun and joy, and that's really where the organization started from too. But at the same time that I can balance both perspectives, I feel like Local Color really aligns with my values, because at the center of our mission is to create equitable pathways for artists to thrive. And one of the main ways that we do that, and it's important for us to do that, is through economic opportunities, because that is the world that we live in. So to make sure that there is a way for artists to sustain themselves, both through the physical dollar, exchanging hands between us and between small businesses and funders and large corporations, more essentially, to be able to invest in that support. But also just through community and just having a fun time. And, you could meet your next patron through that. My mom has been calling me. She got really lucky. The second year that we did it, we were still doing a raffle. So we did 2 years of a raffle. Last year was the first time we did an auction format, and this is going to be the second year it's doing an auction format. So in the raffle, my mom won a Patrick Hoffmeister skull, cool. And he did these incredible, intricate Dremel, his filigree kind of style into it. You could put a candle in there. It's awesome. And my mom is wonderful, and she had promised it to a coworker that she invited with her, and so she, stayed true to her word and gave them that skull, and I was like, that's probably the retail value on that one. And then last year, she in the auction won the bid for Reyes Magos skull. Awesome. So she's already calling me and asking about her favorites and are they when is theirs going to be posted? Yeah. So we're doing a cool little slow rollout. Alex Nobody took all the portraits to this year. So we're rolling out so people can get the kind of close-up look. So enjoy it as a digital art show. Enjoy it in person. Also, please join us on October 27th at the San Jose Women's Club.
Is that the 10th or 11th or 12th or something?
Between 10th and 11th. So nice, easy parking at the San Jose State parking garage. Only $8 flat rate. So $8 parking ticket, a little walk.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Okay, and then so how do they get a hold of Local Color? Why don't you tell us the deets for Local Color and then plan and story as well?
Sure. So for Local Color, please visit our website. It's mixed it up. Local Color's website is localcolor.com. localcolorsj.org. Same thing on Instagram, localcolorsj. And to find myself, you could feel free to find the Plan and Story podcast on iTunes, on Spotify, and on Instagram, all at Plan and Story.
Awesome. Cool. Last thing. What would be one thing you would want to tell people? This is your platform to millions of people. Actually, the audience is right here. And what would be, if you wanted to leave a little something, what would you want to say? What would it be? Like Carman's message?
Ooh. Simply to hold on to your joy and protect it and to go after it in whatever way that means for you. Your life is precious. Everyone's life is precious. And let's just do our best to make it a little bit better.
Awesome. And on that, good night. Or good day. Goodbye. Thank you. Thank you, Carman. Thank you for listening to the Content Magazine podcast. Follow us on social media at Content Mag. Become a member and help us to continue to tell the stories of the South Bay creatives. This episode's music is 408 by Jack Pavlina. Follow him on Spotify and also on his Instagram at Jack Pavlina Music.